Okay, this is Leon Erickson from Warren. He was in the Navy from 64 to 69. Go ahead, Leon. And
I graduated from the Warren High School in 1961, went on to school in Fargo for a couple of years, and then joined the Navy in March of 64. Went on to boot camp, and from there to Rhode Island to
where'd you go to boot camp at?
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes?
Yep.
So just north of Chicago.
Yes.
Okay, and what was boot camp like for you?
Boot camp, it was an experience, but you had to learn to live with it. It's the way it was going to be, and it went well. It wasn't bad at all.
So what's some of the things you did? I know fire protection is a big thing in the Navy. Did you have a lot of that?
You do. You go through this this building. They fill with smoke and they fill with various things, and then you have to be able to get through it. Eventually, you'll get a gas mask or something like that. But you have to know what it's like to be in the smoke without extra help of equipment.
Okay. What's some of the other things you did at basic?
In basic was basically school. We never did fire a rifle. We had a rifle we carried, but that was just to carry. But yeah, we never did actually fire. Of course, we had to learn how to swim if we didn't know how to swim. And that was an experience for being a non-swimmer.
Yeah. So you did learn how to swim.
You learn the hard way. Yeah, either that or you're asked to leave.
Yeah. So, did you have a parade or anything? Graduation? Or?
Yeah, I don't remember the exact, must have been June. We had a graduation at the Great Lakes, and then they give us a 2-week leave so we could come home for a little bit, and then from there went to Rhode Island to school to be a storekeeper, which is rating in the Navy, and learned how to order and issue and put away and all that stuff. Yeah, that was a good experience also.
How long was that school?
That was about 2.5 months that we were out there. So it was, like I say, good experience.
So that's just pretty much training.
Training and what you're going to do when you get aboard ship or wherever you end up. Yeah.
So you ordered materials, learned how to order materials,
Yep.
dispense it, and all that stuff.
Basically, it's running a store. It's the same. It'd be the same thing as running a store.
Okay.
And having the total from the ordering to the depositing of the funds. We didn't get into the funds, but it would get you to that point. Yeah.
So you go home for a couple weeks, and then.
Then I was shipped out to Alameda, California, to an aircraft carrier, CVA-19 Hancock.
So you were on the aircraft carrier?
Yes.
Okay. And where'd you go?
We, and I believe it was October, we left for the Gulf of Tonkin, which is right outside of Vietnam. We would stop in Hawaii, and being an aircraft carrier, they would have some, the pilots would fly in and out of off the aircraft carrier for practice purposes before we go over to Nam, and we'd spend probably a couple weeks in Hawaii, in and out, and then when we left from there, we left right to the Gulf.
So when you were in Hawaii, did you get to get off the ship?
Oh yeah, yeah.
The kind of port call?
When we were in Hawaii, a lot of times you'd pull out in the morning and you'd be back at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So then you'd go ashore and enjoy what they have there to offer. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was.
So, and when you were in the waters of Vietnam, were missions going into Vietnam off your ship?
Flying aircraft off all day, every day. And we'd spend probably 3 weeks in that area, and then we would be relieved and we would go to either the Philippines, or we'd go to Hong Kong once during that tour, or we'd go to Sasebo or Yokosuka, Japan for a little R&R.
Okay. So you were in supply, so you were probably in the belly of the ship or something, or?
I was in the office, so I had a really cushy job. But normally you'd be you have storerooms that would be spread out throughout the whole ship. And so you'd have one central storeroom, and then everything would be issued out of there. And not really the issued, it was the request would come there, and then somebody would go to that storeroom that you needed to go, find the item, and then you'd issue it to the department needing it.
So people would come in and request things and you'd have to order them?
Just like a store.
Yeah,
It's really no different.
okay. And so while you on this aircraft carrier, was there ever any close calls of any kind, or?
Close calls like aircraft accidents and that kind of thing. Once in a while, when we were in Hawaii, one of the aircraft came in too low and actually hit the fantail, and the front part of the aircraft slid down the deck and the other fell into the water. Once in a while you'd have an incident, but it was really very rare that you'd have an incident on the deck.
So this is in the 60s. Did you ever have to go after any capsules that came out of space?
No, we never got involved in that. That was another couple other carriers. That was their job. So.
Yeah, my cousin was on one of them.
That would have been an experience.
Yeah, Wayne Bergeron.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would have been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how many years were you on this aircraft? You'd be out for so long and then come in for so long?
When we'd go overseas for say 9-10 months, and then we'd come back to. And our home port was in Alameda, so we'd come back to Alameda, and then.
How long would you stay in port?
In the States?
Yeah. In Alameda.
Let's see, we've got there in, it would be probably 6 months, depending on what's needed to be done. If it wasn't, and they'd give everybody time to get leave during that period of time.
But you wouldn't get like 6 months off. You'd still have to.
Oh, it's a job. You'd still be at your job doing the same thing, whether you're at sea or you're in port.
But they give you a couple weeks.
Yeah, you could accumulate up to 30 days leave, and you could take up to 30 days leave if you so desired.
In a year?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So,
Yep.
So, what was the best experience you had on these ships?
Oh, the whole thing. I enjoyed it all so much. I was very fortunate in the duty I got and where I went, because we went overseas twice on the carrier. And then when we got back, I was supposed to get shore duty because I extended for 2 years, but there was a new ship being built, and they gave me orders to that ship, which is the USS Jewett, and orders to a new ship. You lose your shore duty. How do you want to put it? It supersedes shore duty orders to a new ship. So I ended up spending some extra time in there without getting what I was looking for. But it was a good experience on the Jewett also.
Okay. I was Army, so I'm not real familiar like a carrier. Mm-hmm. Do you have battleships in your group, or
yep.
What all makes that group? How does that work?
You'd have destroyers with us.
So how many destroyers, probably?
Well, we never had all that many when we were in the Gulf. There would be 1 or 2 close by. But my understanding of, if you actually have a group, you'd have a carrier and probably 3 or 4 destroyers, and maybe, of course, you always got your supply ships and so forth.
Tankers and
tank oilers, and you get dry goods for all your groceries, all your other supplies.
Okay.
We'd run out of water sometimes in the carrier because the carrier was actually built before steam catapults took place, and steam catapults took water, so therefore that was number one, to get the airplanes off the deck.
And you couldn't use salt water?
No.
Right.
So we couldn't produce enough water to keep up sometimes, so you'd go on water hours and have water shut off.
Was the ship, was that nuclear then, or?
No, that's,
Diesel?
yeah, that was built back in the early 40s, or
Okay.
mid-40s, yeah.
All right.
That's,
And I guess when you get done with your duties,
okay.
you have what were the sleeping quarters like?
On the carrier, they weren't very nice. They were, as you would normally see in these movies, it's an aluminum frame with a canvas stretched in between the aluminum frames. And where we slept, we were above the boiler room, and it was so warm when we were in warm climate that, I mean, your mattress would just be wet when you got up in the morning.
Really?
And you couldn't touch the deck with your bare feet. It was so warm.
Oh wow.
So you made sure you had something on your feet. It was, so yeah, the sleeping quarters on the carrier wasn't very good. On the DLG, the Jewett, that was a new ship, so that was fully air conditioned. That was a real treat. Very nice.
Yeah. So what was the food like?
Oh, it wasn't bad. There were some things you had to get used to that you probably didn't eat when you were at home, but overall, it was fine.
That's what I heard. The Navy, if you're on a ship, the food was usually pretty good.
Yeah, and you know, if you're going to eat, what's there is there. So you learn to eat it, or you wait until the next meal. So you tend to expand your appetite for different kinds of food.
Okay. So while you were in the Navy, would you wish you'd have done anything different, or?
Oh no, I enjoyed it. It was a great experience.
Okay. So 69 you were mustered out?
Yep,
Okay, and where was that at?
that was out of San Diego.
Out of San Diego?
Yeah, that.
So, and where did you go from there?
Well, I was married then, so we came back here into Warren, and then we ended up in the cities for 3 years.
What'd you
working
do in the
down there.
cities?
I worked for a company by the name of Univac, which they're in the computer world,
Okay,
and worked there for a couple of years or whatever, and then moved back to Warren and bought into a hardware store, and
oh, so you had one at hardware stores here?
so
You still doing that, or?
no, I sold the store back in 2006
Okay,
to someone, and so yeah, I've been retired since then. So.
so you've been retired since you
Yes.
living a good life.
Well, yeah, it's no complaints.
Do you snowbird at all, or?
No,
No.
we don't. No, I one utility bill is enough. I don't need a second one. So.
You don't mind the cold weather?
No, you know, if you find things you enjoy during that period of time goes rather quickly.
Okay.
So it's.
Is there anything else you wanted to add, Leon?
No, I can't think of anything right now. It's.
Well, it sounds like you had a good experience in the
Oh.
service, and
Excellent experience. I'd do that again without a.
it sounds like you actually carried over to your civilian life too.
Yeah, it is. You know, it's kind of because when I got done with school in Fargo, I worked for a white drug doing the same thing. I went into the service, did the same thing, got out and did the same thing for another 35 years.
So you must have enjoyed it.
I did. People are fun.
Nothing else?
Don't know anything right now. It's just I wish everybody had that experience or could do that. They'd
Yeah.
enjoy that.
Yeah, sure is. Well, Leon, I want to thank you for doing this interview and thank you for your service.
You're welcome.